Greetings, everyone. It is Sunday night. We're going to do a little bit of debating because we couldn't get to it yesterday. I spent most of yesterday asleep, just being lazy. So we're doing a little bit of makeup work tonight. I hope you're all doing well out there. So we've got a topic tonight that I know nothing about. And I'm hoping these guys will help me with that. We're gonna the title of the stream tonight is "Where is Nintendo Going?" So we're gonna be talking a lot about like video game stuff, and I don't know about video games because video games will rot your brain, son. So, joining me to help me with this tonight, we've got EmeraldSpencer who came up with the topic. How are you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing very good. Just ate an entire box of cornbread stuffing, and it was delicious.
Cornbread stuffing. God, that sounds like far too many calories. And let's see here. We got DJ Skywalker joining us again. How you doing tonight, sir?
It's me, a DJ.
Cringe.
Good. Just been working on setting up my road trip to try to get to you guys in a couple months.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, DJ's gonna come hang out with us for my wedding, guys. It's gonna be awesome. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I got some ideas for stuff that I want to go down to my wedding, but I haven't fully implemented them yet. I gotta get on my email after the streams tonight and figure that out. And we got the gorgeous Princess Heather Blossom. How are you doing tonight?
Pretty good. I'm going to that wedding too. Should be fun.
Yeah. I don't think...
I certainly hope you're going to that wedding.
Yeah, you better go to that wedding. I'm not going to get frickin' left at the altar again. So the, frickin'...
We don't have time to unpack that.
Yeah, we don't... Let's change the subject, because we don't have time to unpack all of that. Frickin', So, yeah, I don't think, Heather, that your dress is going to be as good as mine.
I don't. Yeah, I've seen like what he's wearing. He's got the drip. I'm not gonna lie.
I have the drip. It's gonna be absolutely insane. I actually got to take some pictures of that and send them to my mother afterwards here. So you guys might have noticed that we got a new fundraiser up there. That one, I'm just going to be honest, is a bit of a joke. But we are always fundraising here, trying to transition me into full-time content creation so I can get back to actually making videos instead of just doing this nonsense that I do here. But what were you about to say, Heather?
Actually, Brawny,
yeah,
it still says buy my buddy a gift. It doesn't say the hair.
I fixed it. It just hasn't updated yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're not. So,
or do you have it paused on your end?
I have no idea. It says hair transplant for me. I don't know.
I was talking to Heather.
I'm trying to go with the live, but then again, the live is going to be a little bit behind us. So just wait for it. I'm sure it'll change.
Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely fixed it. It's definitely fixed on my end. So.
Yeah. So before we get into that, big thanks to everybody who supports on Patreon as well, especially the $10 and up tier, half of which is in this freaking call in Heather, DJ, and Emerald. There's also Shady Oak, Autoknight, Senko, Rain, Billy, Alden, Kanto, Mr. Sonic, Alicia, StarChaser, VentureCorp, Willyzin, Icanus, Vulpecula, Jimmy, J. Yoshi, Raptor's Talon, and Dark Malcontent. Check out all those links in the description to see what you get in support for in return for supporting the channel. God almighty, am I ever bad at talking. And don't forget that if you guys want to add your 2 cents into whatever it is we're talking about here, there is a Discord link at the top of this description. Hop in there, let us know what you want to say, and we'll add you to the call for a minute or two. With that being said, we got to turn our attention to Emerald here. What the heck are we talking about, and why did you want to talk about it?
So what we are talking about is the fact that the Switch 2 had its reveal trailer very recently, and more specifically onto why this debate is happening, some very credible leaks of the specs have come out, and I figure that it might be fun to theorize about, well, as the title says, where is Nintendo going? What might be their plans for the future? Because I think there's enough info here to extrapolate what the Switch 3 might be like.
So we're thinking about
That's a
Switch
bit
3
ambitious,
already?
don't you think?
What do you, yeah, what are we doing thinking about the... How long has the Switch been out that we have a Switch 2 now?
8 years.
2017.
Okay, so that's about the lifespan of a generation of a console.
It's gotten kind of skewed because of how long the PS4 and Xbox One generation lasted.
Yeah, and before that we had PlayStation 2, which lasted forever.
I mean, we want it lasted forever. We should look at the Game Boy. Like, I'm pretty sure the GameCube came out before the original Game Boy got discontinued.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you there. So, tell me your like I said, I don't know a whole lot. I'm going to be doing a whole lot of learning this stream. I'm also going to be doing a whole lot of roasting your hobbies. But that being said, tell us your thoughts, Emerald, and we'll springboard off of that.
Well, obvious thoughts out of the way. I'm very excited for the Switch 2, and I will be taking time off work to try to get a hold of one, and I already have people asking me to get one on their behalf if I am able to. Just in general, the Switch 2 looks like an improvement in every way to the existing Switch, and the real difficulty is going to be deciding who to give my Switch to when I get a hold of the Switch 2. But, yeah. As for the specs I mentioned earlier, I mean, do we want to just fire off with that, or work our way into it after we get everyone else's opinions just of what they've learned?
Let's talk, well, tell me a little bit about the specs of the Switch 1 first.
Okay, let's see. It is using a processor. Where do I start with this, actually? Well, here's the most egregious one. The Switch has been running on 4 gigabytes of RAM forever. For context, I believe that is about half the memory my phone has. And, yeah, and its GPU architecture is one that is 2 generations older than the GPU that is currently in Brawny's computer. It's running on frickin' Maxwell. For anyone who knows what that means.
Explain it to us like we're dumb, because I'm yeah. Like, listen, I bet you a lot of us in here don't know anything about it. Like, DJ said he had some thoughts, so I'm eager to hear about that. But I don't know anything. I don't know what Heather knows. I don't know what the audience knows. You got to talk to us like we're dumb.
Yes. So, long story short, take the graphics card that's in your computer and get something like 5 to 10 years older. That's about what the Switch is running on.
No.
Okay, but by
you
the
good,
same
Heather?
Achilles just... it's Achilles. Fucking, he jumped. Everything's everywhere.
Oh no.
Geez.
Got Achilles.
Lock that cat out of your office, Heather.
He's gonna...
So, okay, so the question I would ask about
Come on.
old graphics card and something like the Switch, I've got a whole tower to fit however big of a graphics card I need to in it, as long as it'll fit. The Switch is, what, 6 inches across?
Yeah, give or take. Actually, let me look that up real quick.
Yeah, so is it what is it outdated for the technology that was available at the time?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, really? It wasn't as good as it could have been? Tell me about that.
Since the Wii, Nintendo has been behind on hardware every generation. Because for the Wii, they just reused the GameCube's architecture.
Like, as far as I know, so when the Switch came out, the PS4 and Xbox One were like mid-generation. This was not even on par with those.
Alrighty then. So overall, the Switch isn't as good as it could have been at the time. Is the Switch 2 as good as it can be for the modern day?
We don't know.
That's certainly the golden question. According to all the leaks, it is supposed to be on par with the PS4. I've heard different sources say PS4 or PS4 Pro, but regardless, something Switch size being able to have PS4 levels of power in it is absolutely impressive.
Yeah, the PS4 was a whole gosh darn, like, it was just a computer, wasn't it? That was like masquerading as a console, because you could do everything on the PS4.
I think that was more of the Xbox.
Interesting.
Well, you did have a browser to some extent, but
that's true.
Okay, so let's get into what DJ thinks about this trailer, and be as detailed as possible, DJ.
Okay. So those don't know, Switch 2, it's slightly bigger Joy-Cons. It's got a U-shaped kickstand. So here's the first take. That kickstand is going to break on everyone's Switch. It is a flimsy U-shaped kickstand. Dude, expect it to break.
Oh man, I was
as
looking
long as it
forward
doesn't
to the
pop off.
kickstand.
It looks about as cheaply made as the original Switch's kickstand. But
See, I don't know, 'cause it looks like it's using the same architecture as like the Switch OLED's kickstand, just with a lot less material in the middle of it.
Yeah, but that makes it flimsy.
I suppose that's fair. We'll have to see file units. Maybe they're like made out of carbon fiber or something.
That'd be something. I will say I am glad that the leaks prove true that pretty much any Switch game will be playable on the Switch 2. It uses the same cartridges as far as we know. And all digital games will be transferable. It'll just be up to the developers to say whether or not it's not fully compatible.
Yeah, and the ones that are probably just going to be the ones with weird peripherals.
Yeah. I kind of like the design of the new dock. It's kind of slimmer. A little more rounded. Nothing too different from the OLED one, really.
Hoping for more ports.
I will say though, I am standing against the popular opinion that the trailer showed a new Mario Kart. I don't think that's Mario Kart 9. I think that's a new amped up version of Mario Kart 8 with all the DLC included.
I mean, if it is, there's still 24 slots for racers at the starting line. So it's got to be like Mario Kart 8.5.
Well, I'll believe it when I see it, because like at this point, I really don't think they have any reason to make a Mario Kart 9.
Yeah,
but
Mario Kart 8 too.
Overall,
we got
major thought on the Switch 2 is that. Oh,
yeah,
go ahead.
We got placeholder in the chat saying I think it's metal. I'm guessing in reference to the kickstand.
I mean, we don't really know outside of leaks, since it was just a render mock-up. It's like, I doubt we even saw a physical Switch in that trailer at all. It's just the rendering.
Yeah, given the way it was animated, almost certainly not.
Alrighty then, what else you got, DJ?
Honestly, I don't expect a lot from the Switch 2. I think it's just going to be more Switch, which is honestly what is the safest thing to do with a new console. It's basically what we would have expected from a Switch Pro earlier a few years back. What I'm going to think it's going to happen. All I'm really hoping for is that it plays Pokemon Scarlet and Violet just a little bit better.
I was gonna say I'm so looking forward to playing Pokemon Violet on this thing.
Well,
I hope it just plays it a little bit better because it can process the badly made map that they did for that game.
I would have thought the problem with playing Pokemon Scarlet was within Pokemon Scarlet, like the coding and programming of the game rather than the console.
It is, but it's also that the Switch
super
can't
bad.
handle it. It's a badly designed map, but it's to the point that the Switch cannot render it at all. You can get Scarlet and Violet running pretty well on a PC with very little lag, from what I've been told, just as a standard game. But that's
crazy thing I've seen. If you hack an original model Switch with the little paperclip jig thing and load Android on it and emulate the Switch version of Minecraft through Android, it actually runs better than running it natively on the Switch.
Awkward silence here. So what are we thinking?
Okay.
Yeah, for a second I thought my internet cut out.
Oh, thank God. I thought that too. I was like,
I'm just kind of
No,
listening
that
and
news
juggling
is just
the
so
stream
stunning.
here,
None of us
so-
had anything to say.
Oh, jeez.
Well, is it my turn now?
Sure.
I did want to first answer
Go ahead.
Harriman in the chat, if you wouldn't mind.
Oh yes, please.
Harriman notes, it's also worth noting that in the Switch 2, it looks to be too big for most people to conveniently carry. It's almost like it's a stealth home console that you can carry like a tablet. I will counter that, which it looks about the size of a Steam Deck, which most people seem to handle just fine. So I don't think there's going to be too much issue that it's
Heather was
too
sort
big.
of talking about the size of it being a problem.
Actually,
for her.
yeah, that's the first thing I wanted to talk about. I'm coming in with concerns because I thought the Switch we got was the perfect size, and they made it bigger. And at first I was like, oh yeah, cool, bigger is better. Better is bigger. But not necessarily, because, like, as it is, it's a little inconvenient to carry around my Nintendo Switch. I just think, how much bigger are we going to go? And at one point, is Nintendo just going to be like, we're just going to make an at-home console, and if we want to release a game that you want to play mobilely, it's going to be on your phone? Because a lot of developers have gone that way. Like, yeah, let's just make a mobile game and do the easy way. And if you want to play good shit, you better play it on your PC or something at home, which I don't like that being what it could turn into, because it felt like at one point everyone was trying to make like a handheld console, and Steam Deck was a thing that was happening, but like, God, have I not heard anyone talk, and I haven't heard anyone talk about a Steam Deck in forever. So I'm just wondering, like, not only where is Nintendo going, but gaming in general is really like mobile gaming, like, and I'm talking about not just on your phones, but gaming like that you could play in your hands. Where is that going within the industry? Because I almost feel like it's going away to the point where we'll only have the games on our phone for mobile play, which I really don't want to see. Like, it almost feels like we're transitioning toward that, because like, what was it? Nintendo had for a while the Wii, but they stopped doing that. Leaned into the like. I liked the Wii, but I don't want that to be all there is. Like, so I can only play crappy mobile games on a phone. Like, don't get me wrong, I get addicted to a new mobile game every week, but like, sometimes I want to have a quality game that I can bring with me to the airport, while I'm on the plane, while I'm in the car, like, basically for when I'm traveling or when I just want to chill out someplace that isn't my own home.
Well, then I imagine that the eventual Switch 2 Lite is going to be for you, because you know they're going to do that.
Okay, so they're going to make it's a miniature version of what they've already done.
Are you familiar with the Switch Lite?
I don't remember.
I don't think it's all that smaller than a Switch.
The Joy-Cons still come off, right?
Right.
No, the Switch Lite was a much smaller. My sister actually has one, so I'm very familiar with it. It's I think it's like 2/3 of the size of the Switch. The Joy-Cons are permanently attached. No docking support. It's just for if you want to like play everything in handheld mode.
Yeah, maybe
it's literally not a Switch.
Yeah, but you get my point. I just freaking don't want to see the death of quality mobile gaming, because that's technically what Switch is.
Yeah, I don't think that's going anywhere, especially because the Switch 2 is really a response to not just the Steam Deck, but what was it? The Aya Neo, Corsair's doing their thing, PlayStation just released a PlayStation Portal.
Supposedly PlayStation's in the works of creating another actual dedicated portable.
Something to note here is that our phones are getting better every year still, and we can run some pretty good games on our phones, and we have Bluetooth controllers that, you know, you hook them up to your phone, you turn the phone sideways to play the game, and you've got an actual controller and an actual handheld gaming console just on your phone. So it might behoove some people to focus on mobile gaming, because everybody has a phone, but not everybody has the ability to get a whole nother separate console for hundreds of dollars. That's just the first thing that popped into my head. I don't know if it's right, But that's the question that I would ask in that situation. So what do you guys think of that?
With most phones, you're going to be severely thermally limited, so you can't cram in the same level of hardware that you can into a dedicated gaming device, which is going to be built with like heat sinks and coolers in mind, instead of just release the heat through the back of the phone and maybe the screen if we want to get exotic, because there are some phones that did that. Speaking of exotic, there are some gaming phones that have the whole heat pipe and little fan inside of it thing, but they are extremely rare and basically restricted to the Chinese market.
Well, back in the day, we would port games to different consoles, and especially with Nintendo having less impressive hardware, what we would need to do is, there would be very noticeable differences in the quality. They might cut out levels. They might cut out some gameplay features that don't really work well between controllers. So you get things like that going on in old ports between different consoles of different games back then. So we would just have to go back to doing something like that and optimizing the game instead of having, games that are 300 gigabytes or terabytes even. That can't play from on a handheld console. They might have to invest the time and money into optimization and maybe cutting things where needed. But yeah, it used to. There would be times occasionally where, and I can't think of any specific examples off the top of my head, but I feel like I've seen it, where the graphics from on the same game from one console to another were just a complete downgrade, or features and aspects of gameplay were missing, maybe even whole levels, so that they could fit and run on each other's hardware.
I mean, they still do that to an extent. The Switch ports usually are inferior to the PC, PlayStation, and Xbox ports in some way.
So there's something in the chat that I want to... I'm sorry to cut you off, but there's something in the chat I want to respond to real quick, as Paladin said, it's too bad that I didn't ask Golden Fox or Josh Scorcher to join in this conversation. They would be great for this debate. I don't know what they're into, and they don't really respond to my messages anymore. Maybe you can go show them the stream, and they can hop in if they want to. Anyway, continue with what you were saying there, Emerald.
I think I had wrapped up that point, actually. I don't remember if I was going to continue it.
I heard the word and I had started talking, so I'm sorry about that. So that kickstand was a point of contention for DJ there. I didn't even know the original Switch had a kickstand. So
yeah, I forgot about that, but it does. If you have your case off, you can pull out. It's just like one leg on one side of the Switch. I always thought that was dumb.
Yeah, and that's, well, I can already foresee, I can picture that in my head. I've never seen it, but I can picture it in my head. And if I'm picturing it right, it's going to lean the console at this awkward 45-degree angle that is going to cause is going to cause some people to have problems, or maybe, like, if you, if you're in a lighting situation where a 45-degree angle doesn't work, normally you would just change the viewing angle with your hand there, but if the kickstand is not adjustable, it's not going to do that. This kickstand looked like on the trailer that it was adjustable.
Take a look, Brawny, take a look in the chat. I'm actually have my video on. I have my Switch out. I have the kickstand out. This is what they have right now.
Hang on. I've got to tab back over to Discord here. Okay. Oh, so that's... I'm looking at Heather's Switch right now, and that thing is... That looks horrible. So it's not as bad of an angle as I thought it was, but it looks like it's only really supporting on one side, so it's not gonna...
It stands.
I bet you it's really easy to accidentally tip over on the right side there. Yeah.
Yes,
and
indeed.
She just tipped it over, so...
And those mechanisms also have a really nasty habit of wearing out, so the kickstand is actually designed to be able to pop off. That way, if you, like, slam the Switch down, you don't break the Switch, it just pops the kickstand out.
Yeah.
But since that wears out, there was a point for a while where my Switch actually, when the Toys R Us near me was closing, I actually picked up a metal kickstand. And after like a year or two, it started getting really loose and just popping out on its own. I eventually figured out how to fix it. All I had to do was bend the tabs back out so it got better grip. But it's a very common issue on a lot of older Switches that kickstand just does not like to stay in place and will not support it in tabletop mode.
Indeed. So, but DJ was saying he doesn't think that the kickstand on the Switch 2 is going to work very well. I definitely think by the shape of it, that it will support better than that kickstand just did, which is to say,
I think support-wise it's going to be fine. I think the fact that it's going to be so fragile though means it's probably going to break more often.
Yeah, and that's the weakest point of anything. They need to whatever it's supporting needs to be stronger than what it's supporting. So they need to make it out of some heavy-duty plastic or maybe even aluminum. Would probably be the thing.
I just sent a picture into the waiting room chat, which is of the Switch OLED kickstand, which is a much better model.
Yeah, that's way better. And as far as I could tell, I liked that it was adjustable, so that you could the sun is going down at a certain angle. This 45-degree thing that I've got working here isn't working anymore. How about I just tilt the phone the Switch, and the Switch will now still hold itself up at an angle where I can actually see it. Or maybe it's not even a lighting thing. Maybe you just want to change the position that you're sitting in, and one comfortable position might not be optimal for the whatever the angle is at. So you adjust it, and now you're still good to go. So in that case, it looks better. But yeah, they definitely got to make sure they make it out of good material, and that's gonna. What do you think, Emerald? Do you think they're going to actually do that, or do you think they're going to cheap out and these things are all going to break?
Well, I can't imagine that the hinge points aren't going to be metal like they are in the Switch OLED. Because one of the greatest things of the OLED, besides the fact that it's a big flap and more stable, is the adjustability you mentioned. I don't think there's a clicking mechanism. It's just friction that holds it in place. So if they go back on that for the Switch 2, I would be heavily surprised.
Friction is not good. Friction wears out very quickly.
I suppose it depends, because I haven't heard much about the OLED kickstand wearing out the same way I've heard of the original model's kickstand wearing out.
Yeah, but that OLED picture that you sent in the waiting room chat, thing's one solid piece.
Well, it's one solid piece, but I'd actually have to get a different look at the hinge mechanism.
It's not a moving part as far as I can tell. The moving is where you get the friction, and if there's friction and movement, then it's going to erode, basically.
I suppose. I'm going to have to see if I can get a different angle on this thing to see where the mechanism exactly lines up.
DJ, what do you think?
One of the big things I'm thinking with that Switch 2 kickstand, there's going to be idiots that'll be carrying that thing around by the kickstand.
Well,
yep, you're absolutely right.
It's perfectly handle shaped.
We got a tip here.
I heard something.
Yep.
I hope Nintendo will indulge in community features on the system, such as voice chat, messaging, etc. It would encourage players to make new friends online. Nintendo needs to stop babying their fanbase and let parents do their job for the little kids.
Okay, I don't agree with that, and I'll tell you why. That's exactly the thing. There is now they've got to deal with moderators, and now they've got to make sure that there's no illegal activity going on. And I think it doesn't really add a whole lot to the gaming experience, especially the type of gaming experiences that Nintendo usually offers, which outside of Mario Party and Mario Kart is not going to be a whole lot of play. Like, you're not going to be playing Call of Duty on a Nintendo Switch. You're not going to be playing Halo Infinite. Games that require an internet connection and like a lot of dynamic communication you know, where something is actually added to the game, that's not going to be, that's not what most people are getting a Nintendo for. Nintendo is not known for that. So I don't see what the good would be in expanding that into,
I could see it. I could see it happening with like games like Splatoon. I loved Splatoon.
Yeah, Splatoon has voice chat. It's just really stupid. You have to get an app on your phone.
Well, that's how all of Nintendo's voice chat is. It's through the Nintendo app on the phone.
Yeah,
Or
heck, I
Switch
have
app.
the
It's a dedicated
chat
app.
headset.
I didn't even know they had any Nintendo games had that, but Splatoon is where it would work because that's a competitive online game. So you might want to communicate. But
Make Splatoon
also-
3.
Splatoon 3 already
and
came out.
backing up,
Splatoon 4.
and backing up a little bit, they did release several Call of Duties on the Wii. I think including Modern Warfare 3.
No, I don't think 3 made it on there.
I'm almost positive 3 made it on there because it was in a Scott the Woz video.
Uwe Mazzadel and the Discord server says, to me and most people that are fans of Nintendo, Brawny, we have always wanted that for most Nintendo games. So apparently I'm wrong, according to Uwe Mazzadel. I don't know. What do you guys think of that tip that we got?
I'm always kind of split on the topic, like, because I get it. We want to make gaming a more sociable thing, because it's great to have a group of friends you play Pokemon with or something like that. But it is like if you bring in the fact that, like, hey, let the parents deal with, like, keeping the kids safe, where it's just a plain fact of the matter that the parents may never have been interested in video games, or they're from a generation where, like, they never had such complex systems involved with video games. It's difficult. That's why parental settings are a thing. I think the world would do better with a lot less kids saying racial slurs in the voice chat because they think it's funny. I don't know. It's a very divisive thing. Like, I certainly enjoyed the social aspect of video games growing up, but there was also a lot of bad with some of the good. You know?
And by the way
a
you
lot
recount,
of potentially dangerous situations.
yeah, the way you tend to recount these things that happened to you, Heather, it sounds like it really just outweighs any of the benefits that you could have for most of the games, because where there is online voice chat, there is people yelling racial slurs and swatting. And where there is messaging apps, there is people sending dick pics to teenage girls.
Which was me, and there are so many.
Yeah, exactly, right? And that's not really a type of thing that a parent can reasonably monitor all of the time. And really the only way to stop it is for it to not be there. And like I agree on the surface that people need to be responsible for their kids and monitor what they're doing, but you can't monitor that reasonably. You have to be over their shoulder every time they play these games, and for the entire duration. And then that's still not going to stop somebody who doesn't know that the parents are over the shoulders from sending a dick pic to the 14-year-old girl through the messaging app, combined with a threat and their current IP address and home location because they lost a game, and now the damage is done, and there was no way to prevent it in the first place. It's better to not have it. Like, it hasn't, outside of games that really require that type of communication, like Call of Duty, like CS:GO, and games that are
Fortnite.
meant for more, or games that are meant for more mature audiences anyway. It doesn't add anything, it doesn't add anything that doesn't get immediately subtracted and then some, just by people, the worst types of people being the worst types of people. I think it's better to not have it.
Just like I said, I'm split on the issue because it probably would be easier that way, but at the same time, like, my nephews live, like, and I'm talking like all of my nephews generally, they live states apart. Like, my older sister's kids and my younger sister's kids live states apart, and that's one of the only ways they can communicate is talking to each other online and playing video games together. It's a way for them to bond, even though they can't be like physically as close as they could be and play like, you know, actual games outside or something like that. I wouldn't want to take that away from them, you know?
I guess, but I don't think it's worth the risk. DJ, what do you think?
It's always a hard bit between those ideals, but I think from a hardware and software kind of thing, it's probably about time Nintendo implemented the ability to do it off the console itself rather than having to use a secondary app, because we're talking about all this stuff they can and can't do. They're already doing this either through Discord or through the app itself. At this point, just let them do it on the console like any other. PlayStation and Xbox have been able to do it for years. Nintendo has no excuse.
And we're still talking about the mobile consoles that those other two companies have been putting out.
Those other companies, they're just Windows devices. The Steam Deck has its own OS, but you can overwrite that with a Windows or a Linux.
Okay,
they're just portable. They're just portable computers, and you can just put Discord on them.
So let me run this scenario by you. You're on your Switch, and you're out on a road trip or something like that. You're on the plane, you're on the train, whatever. And you're playing an online game, and you want to connect to the voice chat. How are you doing that?
Well, you're not.
Right. Well, this thing. So it's not really.
You'd have to have available Wi-Fi. The Switch doesn't work like a phone.
Yeah, exactly. It would have to have.
Yeah.
You'd have to have data for it, or which is going to be a mobile line. You're going to have Wi-Fi, Ethernet ports, and who knows? I don't know if this thing could have good enough Wi-Fi to then also run these big games and have voice chat in them without sacrificing either the voice chat and or the game. So I think it's a bad idea. And like, yeah, I can sympathize that the fans may want it. I can't figure out a way that it would actually work.
Well, like it would with any other console. So if it's connected to the internet, you can play the online versions and you have the voice chat.
I gotta question how many people actually want this, because when I've played online multiplayer games these days, no one's talking to each other. Like, if you're talking to anybody, it's people you already know in a Discord server, so I don't know. Are people even like actually meeting people?
I think
in,
the
like,
generation knows that if you partake in the voice chat, it's going to devolve into a Call of Duty lobby.
Yeah, like that. We've all generationally learned this is a bad idea.
It goes back to squeakers.
The squeakers? What?
Oh, you know what the squeakers are.
What'd you say? Like your mic cut out. What did you say?
Oh, my mic?
Yeah.
Yes.
I said it comes back to the squeakers, and then I asked if you knew what that term meant.
No, I didn't.
It's all the 9-year-olds that were playing Call of Duty. They'd be the ones swearing up a storm and all that, and they were called squeakers because of how squeaky their voice was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, everyone's encountered some squeakers.
Yeah, I knew about that. I didn't know they were called squeakers, but to be fair, adults do it too.
They squeak?
Yeah, it's actually like statistically
suppose.
speaking, most likely to be a teenager that's saying these horrible things. But yeah, the squeakers.
Nah, those are crackers, because their voice cracks, and it's most likely a white child
Alrighty
saying
then.
words that they know.
And just like that, we're kicked off Twitch.
Yeah, that's why. That point should carry more weight coming from me because of how anti-censorship and how pro personal responsibility and actually parenting your kids is. I am normally against taking away features because of these things. I can't justify it in the case of voice chat in a video game. So does that make sense, guys? Like, because like, even though I am normally for all this stuff, the fact that I'm against it in this context, I feel like should carry more weight.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really have a horse in this race anyway because I use Discord and I also grew up as the isolated child, so...
Yeah, so
other than my sisters.
So getting back to it, we've got this thing that and we're trying to figure out whether or not the hardware is as good as it could be for the modern day. I don't know how in any generation we could fit technology that's on par with the modern day in something that small. So the form factor is going to be an issue here.
Well, it depends on what you mean by the modern day. Because, obviously, comparing my phone to my computer, there's a disparity. But we have to look at in terms of the hardware compared to its weight class.
Okay, so in order to do that, we would have to ask, like, who else has a mobile gaming console that's meant to run full-price AAA games, and what do they do better than the Switch?
Well, currently that's basically no one other than the aforementioned, like, Steam Deck and Neo, and the Switch 2 absolutely stops those, but the Switch 2 is also coming out of the market a year or two or so after them, so they've had time to do homework.
Okay.
And the Steam Deck 2 is already in the works.
Yeah. But what we're talking about in terms of hardware being on par with the current generation, back to the Nintendo Switch, when I was talking about how we were talking about the processor being out of date at the time it launched, we always have to remember the smartphone market, because that's where the smartphone market, the tablet market, that's where all these mobile processors are coming from, and that's the hardware we're comparing to. So if a smartphone comes out with a reasonable processor that's better than the Switch has, then obviously the Switch had more room to do stuff. So with the Switch 2, it really looks like they're still a generation behind in terms of GPU architecture, according to the leaks, but it's much more reasonable than it was with the Switch's situation.
Okay, so if there's nothing to compare it to, how do we determine that it is a generation behind in terms of its processors? Unless we are just comparing this thing to a cell phone.
Well, what I'm referring to specifically is, according to the leak I have in front of me, which I'm actually going to link in the Discord server right now.
Mm-hmm.
And this only really works because I'm such a computer nerd and I know what these terms mean.
Yeah.
The Nintendo Switch 2 is rumored to be running on the Ampere architecture, which is the same architecture that the 3080 Ti in my computer is running on. So obviously, it's not going to be as powerful as that. But I know what the architecture is capable of, and, like, what to expect from whatever the rest of its specs are, based on the fact it's based on this processor.
Interesting. So I just dropped that Reddit link in the chat of the stream as well. So you were talking about stats towards the beginning of the stream there, Emerald. What do you think of this of the stats and specs that it's running here?
Well, based on here, we're going off the Switch 2's rumored specs compared to the Switch, which I'd say at least 3/4 of the call is intimately familiar with the performance of. This thing looks amazing. Everyone looking at the specs currently can see. Let me just do the math on the CUDA cores here, because the Switch has 256. The Switch 2 is supposed to have 1536. And let me just do a quick division here. That is 6 times more CUDA cores, which means 6 times the graphics processing, if my understanding of CUDA cores is correct.
Okay.
I I actually don't know what SM count is, but that is also 6 times more.
So this thing will definitely
like
be a
you're
lot
about to say
better at running the older Switch games. Are they going to make the classic mistake of then making more, ambitious games that end up with really bloated file sizes that the Switch 2 still has the same problem in trying to run?
I mean, that's expected of pretty much all things at this. It's cyclical with every system anyway, where at the beginning of the generation, obviously you're working with the old hardware standards, so you've got a lot of room to grow. And by the end of the generation, they're trying to cram this as much as possible. And specifically with what you were saying about file sizes, most of that nowadays is with the big textures. Because if you're trying to run a game at 4K, 4K images are huge. So,
yeah,
cramming an entire game's worth of 4K textures, you can't really smush that. That's gonna take a lot of space. If you want the high graphics, you're gonna need the high storage space to store all those pretty pictures.
Yeah, because like a single 4K frame can be, anywhere between 150 and like 200 or maybe even 300 megabytes. And we're talking about 60 of those every second. Is so that, you get, and it doesn't even take 60 to end up being a gig. So,
that only really factors in if you're recording this stuff, because once, I don't know precisely how the math works, but once you're actually rendering the thing, it's just going straight from graphics buffer to being displayed, and then it gets thrown out. So it's just the textures that we're worried about with game file installations.
Okay. So, I'm going to shift it here real quick. DJ, do you have any other thoughts on what we know about the Switch 2?
Well, one of the things we don't really have to truly worry about for file size is we know that the Switch 2 is still going to be running cartridges. And those cartridges still are not all that big, since they're basically made by Nintendo. It's like their own proprietary that developers have to go through. And at least in my experience, the digital-only stuff on the Switch only sells as well if there's also physical copies. A lot of the digital-only stuff kind of falls off pretty quickly.
Okay. Yeah, Heather was just talking about that the other day because apparently there's some Hello Kitty game coming out that she really wants, but she's only going to want it if it's a physical copy.
Well, I am flexible in that regard. I will get it digital, but I wanted it physical. But I think I'm able, I assume when the Nintendo Switch comes out that I can get my Nintendo Switch account on that console and then just re-download all my games. But then my thought also is it going to save my progress that I've made on my Nintendo Switch for those digital games?
I think I mentioned it in the chat earlier, but it's likely it'll be the same process as you currently do if you get another Switch and want to transfer stuff over. It's the same thing Nintendo's been doing since the 3DS era, where there's literally a system transfer function.
That's almost certainly going to be the case.
But it usually also leaves the original console unable to be used once all the files are moved over.
Unable to be used? Like, it's not even just like it's a brand new Switch, like no one's ever touched it kind of deal? Like, I'm basically bricking my Nintendo Switch?
You're not bricking it, but you're basically making your account no longer available to work on it since it's now been moved over to the other one.
Yeah, I've actually gone through this process with unloading my sister's Switch profile from my Switch to her Switch Lite. So what it does is it's moving it. It's not copying it. So all of your save data and stuff will no longer be present on the original Switch, and it will be on the new one.
And like Placeholder mentions, if you have the online function, you get cloud saves.
Depending on the game. Pokemon games don't do that.
What am I supposed to do then with my old Switch?
Sell it.
Sell it to who? Who's gonna want an old Switch when we have Nintendo 2's Switch?
GameStop.
What?
Yeah, we got game stores in the area.
If you're lucky.
Or you take it to a pawn shop.
That's probably would work better.
See, one thing is, it's been It's not part of the specs in front of me, but from what I've heard, the Switch 2 has some pretty good video processing on it. So I'm starting to wonder if there will be an option to stream your Switch 2 to your Switch.
That doesn't make any sense. The aspect ratio of the video is going to be all off.
I'm pretty sure they're the same aspect ratio.
It's a different sized screen and less bezel, so it might be a different aspect ratio.
I can't see them moving away from 16:9 because that's the size of most televisions.
Interesting.
I do like that. I will say one of the most pettiest things that I like about it, though, is the fact that there's now another USB port on top of it.
Yes. That's
the pettiest change they could have made, but it'll be nice where you don't have to have the charging port on the bottom all the time.
I bought a right-angle charger to keep in my bed specifically for when I want to play my Switch at night.
You know what they need to do is they need to add screen rotation. So you can...
What?
So you can add... I'm talking on it. Nope, never mind me. I realized how bad of an idea that was right after I said it. Sometimes I gotta say the stupid thing out loud.
You used to be able to do that on the DS.
Yeah. Sometimes
that was only with certain games. It doesn't really make sense on the Switch.
Yeah, sometimes I gotta say the stupid thing out loud to realize how stupid it is.
The Switch 1 does have a gyro in it, though, so you actually can move it around in certain games and it does stuff.
Yeah, you have to switch the Switch upside down so that you can evolve Inkay into Malamar.
Alrighty then, so
see, the thing with screen rotation is... sorry.
Go ahead and finish what you're saying, and then I'll ask you my question.
Yeah, so because the Joy-Cons are being magnetically mounted this time around, and it looks like those connections are centered, screen rotation totally could work on the Switch too, because all the controls would still be in the right place. The only issue is because they now have that second USB port on the top, it doesn't matter. Whereas on the Switch 1, being able to turn it upside down so you can charge it while playing would be amazing, but you can only put the Joy-Cons in one way, so it doesn't work.
Interesting. You know, the Joy-Cons is something, because you reminded me of something that I saw in the trailer, that since you said the Joy-Cons are connecting magnetically, I'm wondering if I actually saw accurately, but it looked like in the trailer that they were, that there was going to be like pins that snap into the Joy-Cons when you connect them. And that seemed like a really bad idea to me if that was the case, because those were going to be super easy to bend out of place and even break. And then you've got just a completely ruined Switch and or Joy-Con. So did I misread how these Joy-Cons actually connect to the Switch?
They insert into the pin and then they're magnetically held there. So it's not like they snap into place, really. The magnetics are what cause the snap.
Okay, so
yeah,
it's still got pins Switch... though. Instead
yeah,
of
that's basically that's how the Joy-Cons are going to charge.
And not just
it
with
looks like the
a
Switch 2 tablet has a
and not just it doesn't just have a but so it has pins. I don't see pins on the original Switch.
No, because they're on a rail system.
Yeah.
Yeah, the pins are at the bottom.
So, all right, yeah, I'm just worried about the pins breaking really easily, being in the position that they're in. Is that a valid fear?
I don't think so. From the looks of the trailer, the Switch 2 has a rubber pad in the recessed area, and the pogo pins are in the Joy-Con itself. So the pins are recessed and protected, and I think almost certainly the part where they interface is going to be flexible to account for any bending, and because it's recessed with that magnetic mounting, there's only so many ways you're going to put stress on it unless you're trying. And also, I would be very surprised And again, maybe I was going to say I'd be very surprised if there wasn't some sort of cover that came with the Switch to cover up the sides of the tablet, but that would only be a factor if you're like traveling with the thing and shoving your Switch in a bag. And if you're shoving the Switch in the bag, why aren't you reconnecting the Joy-Cons?
I feel like we could have avoided that conversation altogether if it had just been that they connect using key charging, the wireless, or that the pins where it actually needs to connect are just copper that's like flush with the Joy-Con, and copper on the other side of the Switch that's flush with it, so that there's no part there sticking out that can be bent out of place or broken off in the first place. And then the worst thing that you might have to deal with is occasionally you're going to have to take some alcohol to that, like some like a Q-tip of rubbing alcohol or something to those connectors to get the oxidation off of them.
I feel like they probably thought of that, and there's a reason they didn't do it. But also with the Qi charging, I don't think you'd be able to get a powerful enough coil in such a small space.
Interesting. DJ, what do you think?
I don't know. The chip, I keep calling it chip. The pins with how they're placed feel like they're going to be that extra support to keep the Joy-Cons in place. Since if it was just magnets, I have a feeling they would come off too easily and would wear off pretty easily over time. So I think that's like their way of keeping it so no matter what, those Joy-Cons will be able to stay put.
Interesting. Heather, do you have any thoughts?
I don't know. Magnets have gotten pretty powerful.
Not in regards to that.
So, another thing that Emerald brought up at the beginning of the stream was speculating on the Switch 3, which I think is a wild thing to do, given that the Switch 2 isn't even out yet. But but that probably brings us to like the ultimate topic of tonight of where is Nintendo going? What are they trying to do? So Emerald, bring us into your mind here. What do you know about all that?
Well, see, my original thought with this is that now that we have the Switch 2, basically, in math, in order to calculate a line, you need at least 2 points. So obviously with the Switch, it was a new frontier. Nintendo had finally converged their console and handheld businesses, ending both the Wii U and the 3DS with one fell swoop with the Switch. So now that we have the Switch 2, and we understand their trajectory, I think we can speculate that this is the path they're going to be going on from now on. Because anyone who's familiar with the history of video games will know all of that. Where do I start with this? They had the Nintendo Entertainment System, then the SNES, then the N64, and GameCube, and that was kind of their making the consoles better with every generation thing and trying to appeal to gamers. And then with the Wii, and also on the handheld side, there was the Game Boy series, focusing on a portable, smaller, lower-powered system. And then with the Wii and the DS, they famously opted for a blue ocean strategy, where this is what I was talking about before, where they just reused the GameCube hardware. They weren't going for core gamers anymore. They were going for people who weren't gamers. And that's where you got all of these casual games, like the Wii Sports series, and the Brain Age, and, Big Brain Academy on DS. You were getting these titles that anyone could get into, and that's how the Wii sold, like, 150-something million units. Or was that the DS? Regardless, they did very well that generation. And then, obviously, they lost that casual market to smartphones. So, the Wii U was supposed to be a more powerful Wii back to the gamers, but they fumbled the bag really hard on the marketing on that one. And the 3DS was just, hey, it's the DS, it's better, it does 3D. And that did reasonably well, but it also obviously wasn't the breakout success that the DS was. But there were obvious trends to their performance at the time, where they were gamers, and then they had the casual market, and now they're kind of in this place where they're going after people who want big games on the go. So, my speculation with the Switch 3 is, well, it's going to be more of the same as the Switch 2. Probably like a generation behind hardware according to the rest of the game industry, but it's still going to be an impressive experience on the go.
All right. I don't have anything to add to that. What do you guys think?
Well, see, the thing is, when it comes to Nintendo and their future, Nintendo is fairly unpredictable. You never know exactly where they're going to go with what they're going to do. Because, like, when they did the Wii U, I don't think anyone was expecting them just to do the Wii with a new tablet. And then they surprised everyone.
Just fumbled on communicating that.
And then they surprised everyone with the Switch. At this point, though, I think while the Switch branding may not continue, I do believe the aspect that's going to continue is the hybrid console. Because at this point, they've cleared away their home console and mobile consoles into one. If they were to ever revert into it being two, they're going to fracture their fan base again. Because it's going to be having to buy two different consoles to play different games that are going to be made by whoever. So I think the only thing that we can be certain is that the hybrid console is going to be here for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, Nintendo gonna Nintendo.
It is crazy looking at, like, we'll say the big three, because you've got PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo. The PlayStation controllers and the Xbox controllers have looked the same throughout all of history. But the NES, the SNES, the 64, the GameCube, the Wii, the Wii U, and now the Switch, not a single uniform design among them.
Nope.
It is just...
You just reminded me of a meme I'm going to dig up real quick.
It's just wildly different every single time. And I don't know how they do it. I don't know why they do it. But that's what they do. So, Heather, do you have any thoughts before we get into audience participation here?
Just that I think I kind of voiced my thoughts about where they could be going in the future near the beginning. I'm worried that they're going more toward, like, hey, it's going to get too big and then we're just going to have it all back at home again. I do hope that they keep it up with having it be a mobile but also at-home console kind of thing where you can put it on your TV or you can just be handheld. Because the Switch actually does mean a lot to me. I got it for myself. It was a gift for myself, and I just really used it so much. It's where I first experienced Skyrim, if you can believe it, because of course I've played other Elder Scrolls games on like Xbox and stuff like that, but Skyrim, one of my favorites, I got on the Switch during 2020 while I was out with COVID for like 2 weeks, and I just hooked on it. So I really want to see it have a future that I jive with, you know.
We got Battleship Agincourt asking if I can play Skyward Sword on the new system.
Yes, because there is Skyward Sword HD on the Switch, and you can play it on the Switch too.
I can't wait to play the new, Skyrim release on the Switch too, because there's a new console being released. So we've got to re-release Skyrim.
Yo,
I saw a meme.
My Skyrim playthrough too.
I saw a meme earlier last week that was like the Skyrim was 2,400 and some odd days old when the Elder Scrolls 6 trailer came out. The Elder Scrolls 6 trailer is now the same age. It now has the same age difference between now and when it came out as the 6 trailer to Skyrim. And there's still no Elder Scrolls 6.
When all they have to do is just release the new anniversary edition on Switch, because I don't think that came to the Switch when they did all that for the PlayStation.
I think they did. I feel like they did.
There's this huge anniversary update that costs like $10 if you had the game, which added in a whole bunch of like mods and graphics updates.
Oh, I don't know then. I know that this has, like, the version of Skyrim I have, you can do that thing where you build the house and shit. I don't know.
You can also get the Master Sword.
Yeah, that's exclusive to the Switch. You can dress as Link.
I did.
Yeah, we scanned in all my amiibos.
And I do it regularly.
Placeholder saying Bethesda is silly and not usually in a good way. All right, so let's officially get into audience,
right about them.
audience participation here.
Can I chime in one thing before we do that?
Yeah, sure.
I wish that for the NES, Nintendo stuck with the Famicom branding in America, because could you imagine how fitting it would be to call the Switch the Nintendo Entertainment System?
It's been done, though. That name's been copyrighted.
Yeah, but by Nintendo.
That
was my point, though.
That's like when Mortal Kombat, rebooted their franchise and just called it Mortal Kombat. And
he's basically saying, Brawny, if they didn't do the Nintendo Entertainment System when they came to the States, because it's not called that in Japan, it was called the Famicom.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was Family Console, I think, is what it was short for.
Family Computer.
Family Computer.
I
actually have a Famicom Mini over here right now. But my point was, how fitting of a name would the Nintendo Entertainment System be for the Switch if they didn't already use it?
It would, I don't know, it'd probably work.
Might not be as sketchy.
When I think entertainment system, I think all around. This thing's got to play my games. It's got to play my movies. It's got to play my music. I want to be able to scroll my pictures on it. And we already have that.
You can get YouTube and stuff on there.
We already have that. It's called a tablet. Like an iPad or
yeah,
just
and the Switch is a tablet.
Oh, that's something. Is it going to have a touch screen?
Most likely.
Certainly.
Interesting.
Just the current one does.
Okay, so we're going to use our Nintendo Switch to play Pokemon Go then.
Well, they got to make the app available for that.
We have the Let's Go games.
Yeah, that's certainly something. All right, so early on in the chat, we had Kenny the Arcan Pony saying, Brawny, how are you doing lately? I saw this Switch 2 is just a bigger Switch. So I'm doing all right to answer that part of the question. So yeah, what do we say to the Switch 2 just being a bigger Switch? I think we've gone over a few pretty key differences between the Switch and the Switch 2 that definitely differentiate them. But what do you guys think?
Isn't that the whole point? It's the same thing, but bigger.
Which will make it stand out if you're looking at just the consoles.
Yeah, this isn't like a DSi to DSi XL type difference. This is a generational leap in performance. Something I didn't get the chance to mention is that it has 3 times as much memory as the Switch does. 12 gigs compared to 4.
Yeah.
Also, from what we've seen of the logo for it, it does literally have a big old freaking 2 in the logo. So like, I'm thinking of the grandparents and stuff that are going to like a GameStop and trying to buy the latest consoles. Like, yeah, it's not going to be hard to differentiate between them.
Yeah.
All right.
It's like, get the one that says
like the Wii U. Yeah, it's not going to be the Wii U where people thought it was just a different controller for the Wii.
I worked at a Toys R Us the year the Wii U released for Black Friday. And I was working the video game section. I had so many people wondering what the heck a Wii U was.
My grandson
Thankfully, I knew what I was talking about.
A Wii U. I asked him why he wanted to go to the Clink to call the police sirens down here. I don't understand.
Wii U.
Yeah. Let's see here. Placeholder said it. Okay, the hardware had to be older in order to be cheaper and not drain the battery power too quickly, I believe. Does anybody know anything about that?
Yeah, so basically he's saying the chipset was weaker than the normal systems were. to extend the battery as long as they could.
Yeah.
Because even
See, but
still, the
newer
Switch has the
architectures
best
tend to
battery
be more
life out of all
power
those
efficient.
consoles.
How long until we get the graphene batteries that are supposedly going to be way the heck better?
I don't know. The military's funding
Probably
them
whenever
right
they
now,
become
so-
cheap.
Yeah.
Alrighty
Yeah,
then.
graphene is amazing. It can do everything except leave the lab.
Let's see here. Harriman says, I seriously did not notice a lot of the problems with Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Was it just because I didn't play online much or what? So, Heather, what do you think about that? Because you've played a lot of Scarlet and Violet.
Basically, yeah, because that was like the big issues like, if you guys remember me like streaming Scarlet and Violet, that was the big issue. We kept disconnecting from each other. Like, it would get really buggy if we were too far apart. So yeah, it was
Your freaking
mostly
streams
in the
collapsing.
multiplayer. Yeah, exactly. So it was purely in that aspect of it. It was very annoying, and I mean, honestly, graphically, I don't think Scarlet is that impressive. It's definitely a stylistic one. I like it. I play it. It's fun. But I didn't think that Scarlet was really pushing the envelope.
The Pokemon textures are undoubtedly top tier.
Yeah.
The big issue that comes with it is not necessarily the online portion. It usually comes to when you're in certain areas where it's basically overloading it. Like when you have too many icons on your desktop screen. Just too much happening at once.
Yeah, I've experienced my fair amount of lag when in single player. And also, the game seems to have a real bad memory leak issue, so playing for long periods of time makes it worse.
And it doesn't help that the game's map is basically has to always be loaded. And for some reason, the map is stupidly huge.
The map, do you mean the ocean?
Yeah, like, it's not just the main continent that they're on. It's like miles of ocean that are being rendered all simultaneously for no reason.
And it's not just a static texture. I think they're like dynamically doing the waves or something like that.
Wow, that's dumb.
Yeah.
Why would you do
There's
that?
some points where you shouldn't go the extra mile.
It's not compressed very well.
Yeah, I think like if Paldea was the size of the Earth, the ocean would be bigger than the sun or something like that.
Yeah.
Wow.
It wasn't made very well in that sense, which is what causes a lot of the issues.
See, that's why y'all are fighting with Pal World now. All you had to do was not be stupid. You're Nintendo. You've been halfway decent at not being stupid for 130 years. Gosh darn it! Why did you suddenly stop?
Because they switched from toys to video games.
Yeah, that's true.
It would be hilarious if I tried to
back
emulate
then, video games were toys.
Yeah. It'd be hilarious if I tried to emulate Pokemon Violet on my computer and it still had issues, since I could run Palworld with all the settings cranked and still get 60 FPS.
Yeah, Pal World, and I can't believe I'm putting it this way. Pal World, last I checked, was only 60 gigabytes.
How big is the Pokemon Scarlet and Violet?
They'll also keep in mind Palworld is still in early access.
Yeah, and its performance gets better with every update.
I can't relocate the comment, but somebody had asked, what would we do with Nintendo if we were in charge of it? DJ, what do you...
Stop
what would
copywriting YouTubers.
Okay, but how are you going to steal their ad revenue then? That's going to be like
Or not.
0.5%
If I was in
of your...
charge, we wouldn't be. We don't need it.
That's going to be like 0.05% of your revenue just gone, man. There's no way the shareholders are going to be cool with that. How are you going to...
I don't think Nintendo has shareholders.
You're going to have to lay everybody off. Nintend's going to go under if you don't copyright strike the YouTubers. And don't even get me started on the Twitch streamers. What'd you say?
The funny thing is, way back in the day when the Wii U was hitting horribly and making no money, the CEO of Nintendo actually came out and said he was taking a pay cut so he could keep paying all of his workers the same rate.
Yeah, and
that's a good guy CEO right there.
Yeah, and they were still out there. They were still out there copywriting YouTubers.
Well, yeah, because it's a bunch of old Japanese guys who are still running Nintendo like it's the 1970s in Japan.
And like they're the Yakuza, which they, you know, kind of are and have had a history
I
of
think that's
working with.
Capcom.
Say
No,
what?
Konami. Konami's the Yakuza. Konami's the Yakuza.
Konami makes Yakuza.
No, but I'm saying that they act like it from what I've heard, that they're not very kind. They will blacklist you from the industry if you say something bad while working for them.
I remember Sony did that too, and they're also a Japanese company. Like Andrew Garfield like made a joke, and that's why he's not. They cut him off as Spider-Man when there were supposed to be more Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movies. Heather, what would you do if you were in charge of Nintendo?
More Hello Kitty collaborations.
You see, you're gonna run into that problem when you go to buy that game, right? Because a normal game these days is
Kuromi game
is like $60, right? But everything with Hello Kitty's face on it is just 30% at least more expensive than it needs to be, just for the fact of having Hello Kitty's face on it. So you're gonna end up getting this like barely functioning Animal Crossing ripoff for $80.
and people will pay.
It's going to be just like your toaster, where the numbers and just rub off.
Oh yeah, those
we
are
should
all
have
gone,
taken
by the
pictures
way.
of what those were and paint them back on.
Yeah.
We can find a picture of it.
Yeah, it'd be easy enough. But yeah, it's just that's what your Hello Kitty content is going to be like, Heather. So that's a horrible idea.
People will love it.
So far, DJ's had a horrible idea, and you've had a horrible idea. Emerald, what's your horrible idea?
If I were in charge of Nintendo, see, that's really tough. I can't really think of much I would do differently off the top of my head. Because the big ones are like with Pokemon's development cycle, but that's down to the Pokemon company, not Nintendo itself.
Isn't Nintendo ultimately in charge of the Pokemon company, though? Like, they're a parent company, are they not?
It's actually a co-ownership.
Right, so
Yeah.
there are plenty of people there that could be making the decision of, hey, let's actually make sure our game frickin' works before we release it, and they're not doing that.
Okay, hold on. There is a reasonable explanation for that. So, all of the issues with like Gen 8 with the whole graphics debacle and the way Gen 9 looks, not Gen 9, Legends Arceus looks. I'm gonna skip over BDSP because that was handled by Ilka, not Game Freak. And with Gen 9's performance issues, basically the way I see it, the time frame for every Pokemon game, they get about 3 years of development. So like, when Scarlet and Violet release, they are almost certainly already working on Gen 10. But they probably set the timeline and the schedule and all that based on the previous generation. The problem is, every game since the Let's Go games, they've pushed the envelope. And by the time they get to the point where they realize, we pushed a little too hard, we need more time to refine this, well, you've got the anime, you've got the McDonald's promotions, you got the toys, the Pokemon cards, the everything. You have all these physical goods in production, and the toy makers don't care that you're clipping through the map. They've got a release schedule they're going to stick to. They can't just shove things back. They got their profits to make. So, you've got this looming deadline that you can't move. And things happen. And of course, you can't just shove the game back because there's a whole bunch of Pokemon you're keeping secret as a reveal for the new games. Let's ignore the leaks for right now. And those are going to be released as physical merchandise. You need the games to be out to cross-promote with the toys. You can't push the Pokemon games back.
Interesting. Skill issue.
Yeah, so like, it is a skill issue because by I think the Sword and Shield DLC, they should have realized that they need more flexible schedules, which I think is why Legends ZA is taking so long for like anything to come out for it, which is a good thing. It means it's having more time to get polished. But yeah, it's just there's this big behemoth behind the games of Pokemon, and they can't slow down because the behemoth's coming, whether they have time for it or not.
If I was in charge of Nintendo, I would use it to fight the obesity epidemic in America by getting rid of video games entirely and going back to it just being card games and gambling games like it was in the 1800s. That's what I would do if I was...
Okay, guys, when the Switch 2 comes out, I'm giving Brawny my Switch and a copy of Ring Fit.
Yeah, you know something? I have considered playing Ring Fit on stream one of these days. I do wonder, you know, how good or bad I would be at that game. Like, it is something I've wondered about. We gotta figure out the setup though, because people are gonna actually watch me and my fat self play that game. Like, I'm not gonna be able to just.
You just need 3D tracking.
Okay. Which means we need to get on, making me the VTuber model.
Yep. See, what we should really do is have Heather play Ring Fit. She will get all the views.
Yeah. Nothing better than a hot chick playing Ring Fit. I worry she's going to get the views for the wrong reason, though, and then I got to kill people for ogling my wife.
Oh, forget the ogling. You should hear the sounds that VTubers make when they try to play this frickin' game.
Oh, jeez. I'm not sure I want to. Alrighty then. What else we got in the chat here? Raptor Talon says, I refuse to call the Switch a console. It's just a hyped up DS with extra features. What do we think about that?
I mean, the DS was a console. So, like, I don't get it.
Console's a console. Is it handheld or home console? Like, they're still both consoles.
Alright.
Like, if you mean a console is this only like a PlayStation 4 or something, like, I mean, it clearly is. The dock actually does process things and increases the ability to play games when you are doing it on the screen.
Yeah, I mean, the whole reason this came up is because I heard that the Switch 2 is supposed to be on PS4 level.
So it's still two generations.
The dock's still going to be enhancing it somewhat when you plug it into the screen. So I think that's just weird.
I don't think it's really the dock enhancing it, from what I know. It's just that when the Switch detects that it's connected to the dock and it has full power to draw from, it cranks itself up.
Could be.
Alrighty then. And last question here. Placeholder says, what third-party game would you want or be most impressed by to see on the Switch 2?
Palworld.
Oh, that's a hard question. I guess Palworld would be hilarious.
Palworld.
He also asked, what do we think the launch titles would we want?
See what?
What launch titles we would want?
Yeah.
You know, that actually brings me to something. I actually wonder if I should hold off on Switch 2 stuff because, I mean, a part of me is just like, I want to hold out until they make a special edition Switch 2 that has, like, it comes with a case and stuff like that, and it's themed on something I really like and want. Like, if they came out with, like, Hello Kitty Nintendo Switch 2, I'd be like, take all of my money.
Placeholder saying
The limited edition Switches weren't all that cool, though.
Placeholder saying
Yeah.
Cyberpunk 2077 and Elden Ring would be my two biggest ones. Here's the thing. They need to release with a game called Princess Heather Blossom and the Adventure to Huey Magoo's. And it's just about Heather trying to make the short trip to Huey Magoo's, but everything goes wrong.
That is my life.
Yeah, 40 hours of platforming RPG. I don't freaking know. I'm just throwing crap at the wall here.
See, the thing is with the launch titles, the problem is going to be that a lot of the announced titles that we know of, we know they're going to be Switch games that probably just have enhanced variants on the Switch 2. That's going to be like Metroid Prime 4, Pokemon Legends ZA.
They need to re-release.
So I'm not exactly sure what.
They need to re-release Ridge Racer.
That's a Sony thing.
Ridge Racer.
But For a launch title, it's kind of hard since ZA and Prime 4 are pretty much the ones I would want, which I think they're going to be right in that zone. But for a third-party one, you know what? There's a new Doom game releasing this year. If they can get that to play on the Switch too, I'm freaking sold.
Alrighty then.
If you can give me the new Doom game where you have a chainsaw shield on the Switch 2, you know what? I'm buying it.
I got nothing to add to it. Oh, what if we turned the Joy-Cons into controllers like the Wii that are just totally motion control. So we got like Wii Sports on the Switch using the Joy-Cons.
I already do.
Oh.
Nintendo Switch Sports. They did it.
You know, I gotta stop talking about. I gotta stop letting you guys bring video game topics onto Brony debates because I don't know frick about Jack frickin' squat about video games, and I don't do homework. Okay, I have other things going on. I do. Okay, I'll do my homework when we're talking about something.
Homework is inevitable.
I'll do homework when we're actually talking about something interesting like politics or something like that, right? Or something tangentially related to health.
Use all the time you said scrolling iFunny to do a little homework.
No. The point is, I don't want to. I don't like sounding retarded on my own stream. Gosh darn it!
That was the whole point of this show.
Learning, maybe. Owning the libs with facts and logic, sometimes. I don't like sounding retarded. So, I don't know. I'm just making stuff up at this point. We gotta go switch to our other stream and play some more Mass Effect in 2 minutes here. I was hoping to have a little bit more of a break, but we gotta wrap this up. But you know, in a minute here, closing thoughts, EmeraldSpencer.
I am very excited for the Switch 2 and the future of Nintendo in general, because it looks like they're going to be releasing a good console with better performance from now on.
Alrighty then. Heather.
More Hello Kitty themed things, please.
Things. Okay, DJ.
I'm looking forward to the Switch 2. I hope we get a lot of information at the Direct in April, and hopefully the release isn't until December.
Video games rot your brain, go touch grass. We'll see. Now, with that being said, let's go play some video games, Heather. Thanks to all my generous supporters on Patreon, especially the $10 and up tier, such as DJ, Heather, Emerald. There's also Shady, Autoknight, Senko, Rain, Billy, Alden, Kanto, Mr. Sonic, Alicia, StarChaser, VentureCorp, Willyzin, Icanus, Vulpecula, Jimmy, Yoshi, Raptor, Talon, and Dark Malcontent. Check out all those links in the description. Meet back here in a couple of minutes for some more Mass Effect with Heather and I, so we can make up the streams we missed when I was sick. Stay safe. God bless. Say goodnight, everybody.